Well, I thought it was part of the LGBT community at first. I thought it had to do with transitioning people. Then I found out no, it's a was a non-profit that helps women who are in abusive relationships transition to a new environment and out of the home in which they are, so forth and so on. This was built out of the 70s when the terms battering were used. You know, you used to have battering husbands or, you know, abusive, like alcoholic households and so forth and so on. And anyway, which way should I go? Go straight? That's Verizon. So anyway, I worked there part-time as an advocate counselor. You don't have to have a license to be a counselor. You could even be a church counselor. It's more like you're trained to be able to respond and hear people a certain way, so that you offer support and you serve as an advocate to people who are hurting, you know, mentally, physically, and otherwise. I actually loved the position because I'm naturally a caring, supportive person who sends out positivity normally. You are a beautiful person. You deserve better. You know, what's going on? You know, you try to offer the other person a sense of control. Often they don't feel like they have any control if they're a true victim, and so forth and so on. Instead, I found a bunch of buffoons. It's changed now. They moved locations. Where I worked for women in transition used to be, it's where Canopy is now, Can Opiate, where OPY is in cursive and Can is just regular. On Ludlow there, like between 11 and 12th Street, where the big gigantic Market East, you know, a whole, you know, neat, modern looking, some people would say fake, complexes, where you have Iron Hill Brewery, where you have Mom's Organic, where you have Heart and Paul, where you have Roost inside the Girard, and Federal Donuts and Wayward. See how it's all for the Drug Enforcement Agency and no one else? You get that? See how the Drug Enforcement Agency gets to be a bunch of spoiled brats? Because Can Opiate, Girard, is a huge marker. Once you're north of Girard Avenue in Philadelphia, you find a lot more drugs. Okay. The Wayward. Oh, someone went wayward. We have a lot of wayward people who are as straight as an arrow. That's their cover. We get to look perfect. I know a lot of people who are wayward big time, and they just don't have a propensity for drugs. You can't even take credit for not being on drugs unless you had to get off of them. If you don't do drugs, it's kind of natural that you wouldn't. You see the difference? Like, I can't take credit for not being an alcoholic. I have no clue. I can't even drink this stuff. It makes me want to barf. So even if I wanted to fit in, or whatever all the ingredients are that keep people on that trail, I have no idea. It just didn't turn out that way. It's not like I had to try. Duh. I love how people are self-righteous about all these things. And it's like, well, you never had anyone who would offer you love and acceptance. And I'm trying to figure out what causes people to go down that path other than genetics. The DEA itself enables drug use. They kind of need the work, don't they? They need to feel proud of themselves, don't they? So which came first, the chicken or the egg? So we have a lot of straight arrow looking people, buzz cuts and everything. Goes back to the old adage. You know, do they cause people to need to cope? I don't feel loved over here because these people are so self-righteous and perfect. I have to find people who understand that people are normal. And sometimes that could mean winding up in, you know, the arms of people who are used to growing pot in their backyard. You know what I mean? Well, they made pot legal to try to help with that problem. At least medical marijuana, but most people who wind up on drugs are suffering because they had to cope with self-righteous people. Don't you agree? So anyway, yes, I can hear. big red truck. So that's my little discussion this morning. All the people on drugs are most often victims of people who have harmed them mentally, physically, both or otherwise. And there are people who rebel naturally, because if you have to stand side by side next to someone who has such a stick up their ass, you would, as a teenager, you would automatically go in the other direction. You know what I mean? That is automatic. There's nothing worse than military men. You know what I mean? Speaking of Marines with crystal balls. So anyway, I'm kidding a little bit. There are a lot of people in the military who had to go into the military. They didn't know any other way out of their homes, whether they were overly, whether those homes were overly self-righteous, or if they were in the bad sections of cities and other neighborhoods. And it's like, how did you get a ticket out of here, you know? So anyway, that's my little talk this morning. I don't even think it's liberal. I think it's human. Like, I don't take a stance on politics, but I do know people wind up taking stuff to medicate themselves because someone's been overly self-righteous, overly strict. And we have hypocritical people, pots calling the kettle black, who don't practice what they preach. Okay, so I had to grow up with a step family, and we have people smoking their asses off and never drinking milk. Okay, trying to make sure other people drank milk and didn't smoke. But it came across as less helpful and more like, it's hard to explain, more hypocritical than, oh, please don't do what I'm doing. I can't get off of cigarettes. They didn't sound that way at all. You're not allowed to do this. Meanwhile, they're smoking. Smoking is the gateway to other things. So I think it's funny that we had huge hypocrites at 216 Seneca Drive back in the day. As if the little badasses who wanted to be badasses got all upset when someone became a badass in the family. So, kind of curious where that mentality comes from, and when the stick up your ass straight folks are going to pay the price for lying their entire lives to themselves and others. Thank you.